Well, thank you, Anne Ali, beloved by our caucus in Canberra and a true champion for Western Australia. And there are two things I really admire about Anne and, in fact, all of our colleagues from the West: how good you are at working and how good you are at winning. Can I thank you, Uncle Barry, for your wonderful welcome to country. And I also today acknowledge the traditional owners of these lands. 3 years ago, Australians made a choice and they made a change. You chose to end 10 years of cuts and chaos, of bad decisions and wrong priorities. You chose to stop our country sliding backwards, and instead you chose to build a better future. We couldn't fix everything in just 3 years, but we have fixed a lot and we've built a lot too. Real wages are going up again and inflation is going down. Jobs are being created and taxes are being cut. We've made childcare cheaper and medicines as well. We've saved Medicare from the Liberals' wreck and ruin. We've built 87 urgent care clinics and we're building 50 more. We've fully funded public schools, delivered fee-free TAFE, and now we're cutting HECS debts by 20%. And that's just some of it in just 3 years. Soon, friends, Anthony will talk to you about all that has been accomplished under his leadership and building on the progress that we've made together, his ambitious agenda for a second term. Because while there is a lot to be proud of, there is still a lot left to do and to build. And there is so much that we must protect. All of that progress is at risk in this election. It could all be lost in less than 3 weeks, which is why you see Anthony and his team working tirelessly every day of this campaign in every corner of the country, because we know that to serve in government is a special privilege and we do not take it for granted. That's why Anthony spent the first Monday of this campaign right here in Western Australia, his 30th visit in just 3 years, talking about his plans to strengthen hospitals and Medicare. Peter Dutton, well, he spent the first Monday somewhere else, talking about something else. And he was on radio telling everyone that when he becomes Prime Minister, he really wants to live in a mansion on Sydney Harbour, which, remember, is exactly where he was at a Liberal fundraiser when a cyclone was barrelling towards his home state of Queensland. Anthony was actually there in Brisbane with Defence Force personnel serving the community. Peter Dutton was on Sydney Harbour serving himself. And on that first Monday of the campaign, Albo was right here, delivering for WA, while Peter Dutton was dreaming of his new digs. Now, I think that sums up the difference in character between these two men. Anthony Albanese, who understands the power of his office and how he can use it to help Australians, and Peter Dutton, thinking about the perks of the office and what he can do with it to help himself. Now, you might think that starting an election campaign by announcing which mansion you'd prefer to live in is the height of arrogance. And you might also think that doing it in the very same week you're ending working from home is just so out of touch. And to be sure, you'd be right. But this is Peter Dutton. It's the same attitude he had when he was Tony Abbott's Health Minister in the last Liberal government. That is the one job he's had in his life that he conveniently forgets to mention on the campaign trail. But we have not forgotten, and Australians have not forgotten. They have not forgotten how he tried to cut $50 billion from public hospitals and bring in a GP tax, or how he froze the Medicare rebate, pushed bulk billing rates off a cliff and brought Medicare to its knees. That's why doctors voted him the worst health minister in 40 years. And when Peter Dutton made those cuts, they had real consequences for millions of Australians. Every time you went to the GP, every time your Medicare card covered a little less of the bill, you were paying the cost of Peter Dutton. But Peter Dutton as Health Minister will look like a fairy tale compared to Peter Dutton as Prime Minister. And he's even boasted about his plans to perform, in his words, economic surgery on the country. Think about that. Dr. Dutton's economic surgery. That definitely sounds painful, and there ain't no way that's not going to hurt. Because there's only one procedure that Dr. Dutton knows how to perform: cuts and more cuts. Medicare, Dutton will cut it. Schools funding, Dutton will cut it. Energy bill relief, Dutton will cut it. TAFE, Dutton will cut it. New housing, Dutton will cut it. Jobs and wages, Dutton will cut it. In every part of government, in every part of life, in every part of our country, Dutton will cut and Australians will pay. And why does Peter Dutton need to cut? Why will Peter Dutton make you pay? So he can spend $600 billion on his precious pet project, a nuclear power scheme, which will take too long to finish, cost too much to build and won't deliver enough energy. But it will most certainly increase your power bills. A nuclear power scheme using the most expensive form of energy there is, according to the CSIRO. I mean, literally every expert in the country has told him he's wrong, but he's just too stubborn to listen. And that $600 billion, well, that's money that has to come from somewhere. He has been far too busy taking his cues from other countries, from cuts and culture wars that have no place here. And he's been caught out this campaign trying to copy and paste policies from overseas to try and win an election here in Australia. In these uncertain times, we need leadership that is considered, not chaotic, reliable, not reckless. Anthony Albanese is providing the leadership Australia needs right now, and Peter Dutton could not be more different. And whether it's his nuclear power scheme or his deep cuts to health and education to pay for it, or his plans for mass sackings, or his promise of higher taxes, or his working from home ban, Peter Dutton is just too out of touch and too untrustworthy, too arrogant and too extreme, too reckless and too risky to be the Prime Minister of our great country. And so, friends, that means that we have just 20 critical days to stop him and his cuts and to keep building a better future for the best country in the world. An Australian future where we stand up for our own values, not the Americanisation of our health system. Australia is a great country. We don't need to borrow our ideas, and we don't need to borrow our slogans either. There is just one man who can stop Peter Dutton's cuts and build that future for us all. And to introduce him, please welcome someone who knows a lot about building and a lot about winning, our Labor Premier for Western Australia, Roger Cook.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Richard. Look, before I start, I too acknowledge the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, the traditional owners of this incredible country that we share, and we acknowledge their elders, past and present. Can I also thank Barry Winmar, the Deputy Mayor of Kwinana, bless him, for his welcome to country. Thank you very much, Barry, and great to see you here this morning. I acknowledge the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, members of federal and state cabinet, all elected members, every single campaigner, volunteer and supporter, unions and our workers, and in particular those Western Australian campaigners who have gone back to back in their second campaign so far this year. Now, around 3 years ago, Anthony Albanese and the federal Labor team convened here in Perth to launch their campaign. And to be honest, he's barely been away ever since. He comes back to WA every other week, or so it seems. He brought cabinet to the mighty Pilbara, where so much of the nation's wealth is generated. He brought cabinet to Perth, the fastest growing city in Australia. He's even used a rare opportunity to bring Jodie for a holiday in the Kimberley. Across more than 30 visits, he's been to the suburbs, the towns, the businesses that make this state tick. And why wouldn't he? Several weeks after the fateful campaign launch of 2022, the first ever in this state, the Western Australian community helped propel federal Labor to an historic election victory. Well, friends, we're here to do it again. Now, Albo is a friend of WA's, but importantly, he's not been a fair weather friend. No other Prime Minister in recent history has invested as much in building their relationship with Western Australia than Albo. And that's not easy, especially when so much of federal politics takes place in the eastern states. It's a bit like the NRL, really. But Anthony Albanese has bucked the trend. He understands the importance of Western Australia, not just to the federal election, but to the prosperity of the nation, to our future as a renewable energy powerhouse, to diversifying our economy and making more things here, and to ensuring that there is no better place in the world to get a quality job. Albo is about the next generation, not the next news cycle. I want to take a moment just to revisit the era of the Liberal government, because it was not that long ago. It was not that long ago that many of our international relationships were in tatters. The Liberals shed friends faster than Elon Musk. And this affected more than our reputation. It affected our economy. They dithered on defence plans for nearly a decade and famously upset the French. The French, of all people. They alienated Australia's Pacific Island neighbours by making insulting jokes about rising sea levels. They abandoned diplomacy with our top trading partner, China, in favour of aggressive rhetoric. This, of course, culminated in a legacy of Chinese tariffs against beef, barley, wine, timber and crayfish. As an export state, it was an appalling experience. Relationships that took years to build being trashed at the expense of local industries and local WA jobs. But over the last 3 years, bit by bit, the Albanese government has restored diplomatic relations. And at the same time, they've delivered cost of living relief to help Australians to weather the global inflationary crisis. They introduced tax cuts for everyone, not just the highest earners. And they have started an ambitious plan to bring Medicare back to its former glory following years of Liberal neglect. What's more, we now have a path forward for our defence, with WA at the forefront of these plans. We now have a strategy for a renewable energy future, with WA's resources industries forming a vital part of the energy transition. We now have thousands upon thousands of students training for these jobs of the future through free TAFE courses. Anthony Albanese has been WA's partner in Canberra. We see eye to eye. I've known Anthony for a long time. He listens. He has empathy. He has energy and tact. He remembers his roots, and he is living proof that in Australia, a boy from public housing can realistically aspire to the highest office in the land. But most importantly, he has an actual vision for this country that we all love and call home. So I implore all of you here today to spread the word. If you want to keep building a strong, diversified economy, vote Labor. If you want to keep renewable energy future, vote Labor. If you want to keep building more homes, vote Labor. If you want a healthier future with cheaper medicines, affordable appointments and better aged care, vote Labor. And if you want to make more things here, vote Labor. We are the party that will deliver.
Australians deserve a Prime Minister who shows up, who takes responsibility and who works with people.
And that's what we got, starting by raising the minimum wage.
People who are on the minimum wage are the heroes who saw us through the pandemic. These workers deserve more than our thanks. They deserve a pay rise, and today they've got it.
We turned the Secure Jobs Better Pay Bill into law and closed the loopholes with same job, same pay. We also passed our emissions reductions targets into law because we support renewables in